Hello everyone, Ace here, and today we are back with a brand new Ace Impressions, having a look at MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries, and also the Heroes of the Inner Sphere DLC that has recently dropped for it. Now this particular game is an old school style of mech simulator, and we haven't really had any of those in recent memory. You could technically argue MechWarrior Online exists, but it's an online MMO, and I'm not really a huge fan of those, admittedly, so I mainly try to play single player, which is why I have been longing for a proper MechWarrior game for a long time. Now I should mention, before we go any further, that this game used to be an Epic exclusive. It has actually been out since 2019, however, the exclusivity deal has dropped, and thus the game has been recently released on GOG as well as Steam. The base version of the game can be bought for $30, or you can buy this with the DLC for $50. So, let's talk about what exactly this game is, and like I said, it is a mech simulator, but let's get into a save and I can show you the sort of things you might expect with this game. So I have admittedly been playing it for a while, and I should mention, yes, the whole Epic exclusive thing, a pretty scummy thing for the developers to do when they first did it. And I will also have to mention that they still haven't entirely gotten away from that as well. With the DLC, they were promising enemy infantry were going to get introduced. That hasn't quite happened. Instead, what they're planning on doing is releasing a, quote, free official mod later. But something else to keep in mind. That said, to their credit, they did actually add more than you might think for the little DLC that they did. So let's actually go, let me show you around a little bit before we actually get into the mech play itself. There are a few valid criticisms to be had with this game, certainly. A number of criticisms. First of all, outside of the actual combat stuff itself, some of the models and animations are a little bit not particularly good, shall we say. Some of the models on some of these characters do look pretty dated, admittedly, for a game that came out originally in 2019. It's not the worst I've ever seen, but it is definitely something to criticize the game for. There's also some hilariously bad voice acting, although I would argue that's more a feature than a bug. I kind of like terrible, hilariously awful voice acting, but that's just me, I guess. So yeah, there are some valid criticisms outside of the mech combat, and there are some criticisms of the mech combat itself, although not as severe. So anyways, let's actually advance time a little bit, because we did take a little bit of damage. We'll repair all the mechs here. Then we can take a new contract, hopefully. So we can raid these pirates, and we can do negotiation, which I actually do like this idea. They borrowed it from Battletech, the Battletech game, which is in the same universe, to be fair. However, they have expanded on that, so that is a good idea, and I do like that. So let's go ahead and deal with these pirates. Our mechs have been fully repaired. We do have to drop some tonnage, though, so I'm thinking I'll swap out the Javelin for a Locust. We'll use this Locust. So, yeah, 2 mediums and 2 light mechs. Should be effective combination for this particular mission. But the whole idea is you take up contracts like this because you're a mercenary outfit and you're trying to turn a profit. So
Provided by them can only give the general area they're located at. You will have to recon the precise objectives on site. This area is heavily guarded, so watch out for hostile reinforcements.
So as I was going to say, the in-combat stuff does have criticisms as well. But it's not as... Alright, we'll just deal with these turrets here that... There we go. So there are some valid criticisms, but I've also seen that apparently they've been fixing stuff that people were concerned about, to the developers' credit. So, first of all, I will have to say one of the new features that they've added in the DLC are airstrikes. The AI does not seem to be able to handle you calling in airstrikes particularly well, and by that I mean your friendly AI. So that is definitely a valid criticism to have towards the game, although it is just dropped. You could say they should have done more testing, and that is a fair criticism, but otherwise I don't think the AI is quite as useless as everyone is claiming. But there are valid criticisms for the AI, absolutely.
Nearly there, Commander.
Ooh,
Approach the hidden object to pick it up.
perfect. So we can actually pick up this thing
That's close enough. Ready
to get salvage, which will give us more loot, and hopefully that loot is not just money, but also potentially weapons or something. Yeah, ooh, it's actually an LRM-5, but it's a level 2, so you have different tiers of equipment in this, and you can swap them out and all that, which is nice. So that particular objective has been dealt with. We can now move on to the next one. But some of the problems that people did mention, at least when the game first came out way back in 2019, were things like enemies just popping up out of nowhere, spawning right in front of your very eyes. That doesn't really seem to happen from what I've seen. I've never seen it actually happen. The closest you'll get are turrets just activating. The turrets have always been there, but they'll just activate when you get close. That's the closest I can actually think of to this, to that. At least with the way the game is now. Likely was different back when it launched, of course, and I know for a fact they've been making changes and improvements because I've seen some of the footage from back when the game first launched, and yeah, there are definite improvements there. Let's just walk right through the building there.
hostile transport ship coming in.
Another cool feature is that you can actually walk through stuff, buildings, because you are in a giant mech after all, and I'm going to show you that real quick. There we go. And you can use that as an easy way to save ammo if your objective is to destroy some buildings or just level a base or something. So the AI is probably going to actually get a few kills in this, which is nice. I've heard also complaints that the AI, like I said, was useless. The AI isn't actually useless. I do know that they don't like to respond to your commands very well, which that is also a problem. But at the exact same time,
Scratch that target off the list. That was a great showing, Commander.
there we go.
Benefactor will be pleased with our success.
Let's run through this building.
Back to the dropship. ASAP.
Okay, it's a little silly when they get up to the cockpit level, but you could argue that the mech itself is completely enclosed in armor in theory, but yeah. Ooh, enemy mech. Now, it's actually possible to ram enemy mechs, as I just did there with my arm. Although that tends to damage you as well as the enemy mech, so it's a very high-risk, high strategy. But I have legitimately gotten kills by enemy mechs ramming me. By accident. So that is something interesting. Melee combat win MechWarrior 5, but he's too close for me to use the missiles, so... Okay. We cored him, so... Yep. So yeah, it's a proper mech game. I also like how the way some of the weapons are handled. That is... A lot of the weapons are done in ways that are legitimate improvements compared to MechWarrior 4, which admittedly came out way back in the days of 2000 and to 2002. However, a good example of what I'm talking about, the rockets or the missiles actually, the way those are handled, I do like that. The fact that lasers, when you actually fire them, you can actually damage multiple components by just sweeping areas. You can even destroy multiple targets at once with your lasers, which I have done. So those are some pretty nice little improvements. So there are legitimate good things that this game has done, in my opinion. The negotiation system, the way weapons like lasers are handled, being able to just run through buildings like that. Those are all good ideas, I think. Even if their implementation can be slightly silly. But, yeah. And air support, another good thing I like. The lasers, they remind me a little bit of MechWarrior 3, in all honesty, which is good. Alright, so I typically try to get as much salvage as possible, just for spare parts and potentially to sell them down the road. So we did annoy the pirates some more, but we did improve our standing with House Davion, so that's nice. But alright, so our mechs did take some damage, but we took insurance from that particular mission, so we can just repair all of these mechs easily enough. And then go out and do a completely different mission or something. This is, by the way, the campaign mode. There is also a proper sandbox mode that is also with the DLC, along with some new mechs and new weapons and everything. So it is, there is a lot of good to be said about the DLC to its credit. $20 is a lot for DLC, but getting a proper sandbox mode with multiple different starting potential starting options and whatnot, including start dates, is nice. Admittedly, there's only 2 start dates right now, but it's still a good sign, in my opinion. So I can actually pick up this particular version of the AC-20, which you can tell has genuinely better stats and higher rate of fire, produces less heat. So yeah, it is. That's a pretty good. It also is much more expensive, but it even flies a lot faster and has better range. So yeah, like I said, different tiers of weapons actually make a notable difference. There's also multiple different types of subclasses for these weapons. So for example, I have an autocannon 10 burst fire, which is going to be which functions differently from a regular AC-10. I have to wonder if they're going to, what they're also going to be doing later on with this particular game, because the end date is 3050 or 3049, and those of you who are BattleTech fans will know that 3050 is when the clan invasion starts in the lore. So I have to wonder if they hopefully might at one point decide to go that route or something. That would be quite nice. But yes, is the game ultimately worth $50 if you buy the full experience at this time? I honestly, it has its flaws. It has, and I've been pointing them out, I will admit that. But this is also a game that I've found, for whatever reason, to be relatively hard to put down. I just want to play this game, and that's probably a good sign. When I just want to keep playing the game and will start, when I get done with work or whatever, I start this game, and then I play it for hours on end or whatever. That's probably a good sign that this game is probably worth your time. So, yes, let's actually return to the main menu. And so, yes, by the way, I should mention that if you do pick this game up on GOG.com, you will actually get an additional game up until the 2nd called The Surge. Now, that particular game, from what I've seen, appears to be a sci-fi Dark Souls clone game. So, and it's okay-ish. I wouldn't say it's a must to get this game now, but it is something to consider. But, yeah, in any case, this has been Ace. Hope to see you guys again soon. Take care. Ace out.